Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the morning dump. It's March 26th, Thursday morning. I guess depending on what part of the United States you are in or the world. I guess I have a global audience. I'm Jose Galison. This is the kitty of the day, Diablo, little guy. I think I've showed him to you guys before. He's gotten a little bit bigger since the last time. He's still a sweetie pie. Still likes to be a little playful. So he's loving this right now. But we're gonna have to go put him away now. If you like seeing my hot takes a day, Monday through Friday, around 11 a.m. Eastern is when we try to go, but we don't always make it. Now, or if you just like seeing the kitty of the day, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell for notifications so you can see when I'm going live and when I'm dropping new videos. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day. I'm alright.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to white lights.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. I got plenty to go through with you all today. As always, we'll start off the show a little bit more on the lighter side of things with our Icebreaker content, the more fun, funny, gen pop type of sort of stuff. So I got a couple little stories for you in that realm today. Then we'll get into foreign policy, which still, got a lot going on in the world, so it'll be a little on the longer end these days. But not getting its own name segment today. So we'll get into the foreign policy roundup right after our icebreaker content, and then we'll get into the named segments here, the main segments of the day. I got two of them for you, and I think we should be able to make them. I don't think I'll have to drop any today. I got does Whitney Webb glow? Which I want to go ahead and caveat super strongly. You guys know the format of the show if you're a regular watcher. This is a dump. This is an info dump show. We're just parsing through information. So with that, there has been new information that's come out that I have not had the chance to dig into that seems to be roughly in that vein of information of answering the question of, or at least providing additional information to give you an informed opinion upon whether Whitney Webb glows or not. So I don't know. We'll go through that. I like I said, I haven't dug through this stuff at all yet. I have a few bookmark things and some interesting research it seems like some people dug into and that we're going to dig into together today. And then we'll get into our second segment, or our second main titled segment, and then our last segment also. The Kent reignites Kirk killing controversy, which is I don't know, it's just a bunch of glowies today. We got essentially a Mossad versus CIA turf war going on, all circling around the Kirk killing and the recent resignation of Joe Kent. So I know we have plenty to go through today. We're gonna have lots of fun. As always, I do want to remind you guys there's no guest today, so I'm going to be hanging out with the chat, so I will pop into the chat towards the end of each segment, so like in between the segments. And with that too, if you're someone who doesn't enjoy that, so you like to listen to this back later on audio or something like that, and you don't want to listen to the banter with the chat, I do timestamp this stuff. So this will be timestamped, so you can, and like I said, I keep the chat banter towards the end of each segment. So you can, once we get to the end, you start hearing me talking in the chat, just move right on to the next one. But yeah, make sure you're hitting that like button as you come in, guys. Help send this out to a wider audience. And if you're seeing ads today, well, hey, it is what it is. No one super chatted for no ads in the last one, so that is a deal, just to remind you guys. Or if you don't like that, you can listen to it on Rumble as well. So, or just be a supporter. But with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into the first stuff of the day. The Gen Pop, the old Icebreaker content, the fun, the funny, that sort of stuff. Let's get into that right off the jump. First off, I just want to show you. Apparently, this is a thing now. Squirrels are developing nicotine problems these days. I just really more or less just want to show you a cool photo of of squirrels vaping. I kicked the habit a while ago. I think I told you guys this. What was it like? I think it was September-ish. So I think it's been about a year and a half. I think I've quit for about a year and a half or something now. So no nicotine for me. I've kicked the habit, but I guess it's kind of like equal exchange. So as I quit, for me quitting in turn, I think that means that something like 100 squirrels are now vaping in turn. If we are to look at the world as like being in balance at all times. So I'm no longer a fiend to the nicotine, so squirrels are. So I don't know, whatever. I just thought it was interesting. Look at this. Everyone's ever seen the memes of like, look at this dude. How cool does this animal look with smoking this heater? Well, animals don't do that. They typically don't smoke like cigarettes. Very rarely. I think some animals will like eat them, but like you'll never see a squirrel smoking a cigarette, but you will see them smoking a vape. I guess I'm not going to read this whole long big thing to you, but apparently I guess this has something to do with like the innovation that occurred in this industry when they got into vaping and kind of making it fruity. And so because chipmunks look for fruity flavors and because they really just nailed it with the fruit flavors and making that like just that addictive component to it, I guess now squirrels are getting hooked to it, essentially kind of tricking their simple retard brains into thinking that this is some sort of food of some sort. They need actual nutrients. But yes, so probably going to be bad, actually. I would assume this is not good, because I guess they're also, I was reading this earlier, and I guess they're also like chewing on the lithium batteries too, because I guess it's kind of like, because I mean, anyone's had a vape, or mess with it, they explode, the juice gets everywhere, so totally makes sense if a squirrel's, chiefing on your vape, and if he's trying to get every last drop, he's probably going to end up getting some on like the electrical components inside and stuff, and now you got squirrels, chewing on lithium. I don't know the wider implications of that. I'm sure there's some biologist or some person who thinks about the environment going, oh my god. But for me, I just think, wow, look at this squirrel vaping. All right, let's moving on. Another fun story. This is fun, I think, to me. Whenever you hear one of those stories about someone who spent their whole life and you got away with something pretty big, you're like, that's kind of cool, especially when it's like not something like crazy bad. But apparently we had John Anthony Quinn. He died back in December. Apparently he eluded the FBI his entire life. He was wanted for robbing $1.3 million from an armored car in 1988. He died of natural causes after eluding the FBI for over 35 years. John Anthony Quinn, known on his deathbed as Jim Klein, died in a hospital at Asheville, North Carolina at the ripe old age of 85. Now, obviously, stealing's bad, but I don't know. Assuming there's no violence in there, you kind of like, there's something romantic about it. You're like, that's cool. This dude was robbing banks and just never got caught. I don't know. They should make a movie about this guy. Just cool. John Anthony Quinn, I guess not cool, but also kind of cool. That's my thoughts on that story. Don't do this, guys. But at the same time, it is also pretty cool when you see an outlaw evade the police for this long, especially when it's like, I don't know anything about him like hurting a human being and like stealing money from banks. Maybe they're insured, and like obviously I understand economics and I understand like it's still stealing, it's still bad. But I don't know, it can also kind of dampens it a little bit. When let's be real, the banks are basically just an apparatus of the economic the government essentially. So I can kind of wrap myself in pretzels to make this kind of cooler than it is. And I think most people who have money in the bank, they probably don't lose that money. So I'm just screwing over some insurance and some big corporate bank or something. So I don't know. I'm okay with it. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit queasy about starting to give a thumbs up on it, but don't do this, kids. But this is also kind of cool. All right, let's pop into the chat, say some good mornings, and then we'll get into the foreign policy stuff of the day. I do try to give everybody a perfunctory, everyone gets their own little good morning. I try to. I do remind you guys, after that, you guys can super chat, or you just got to be interesting enough to catch my eye, I guess. Good morning, Zoe, saying Ashton Forb glows. He does indeed. He does sure seem to put off a bright glow. It's weird you mention Ashton Forbes, though, because I don't know what made you mention him, but I will. He actually, one of the things I have bookmarked has him in it today, so I will. He will be a topic of minor discussion again, just kind of quickly, maybe in passing here later. I mean, he's not like the focal point of anything, but I just thought it was weird. You mentioned Ashton Forbes, and yes, he does glow, and that topic will come up again, his glowiness. Good morning, Cubertimo. Good morning, good morning, good morning, King David, reminding all you beautiful people to hit that like button. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, OG Matzo Balls. Says good morning, Dumpers, Kitty, and before Jose. And Senor Jose is what you meant to say. Okay. Good morning, Retardo. Saying morning, Jose, and fellow Dumpers. D says big flumpy. Okay, I don't know is that what you're calling the kitty? A flumpy? Good morning, Bug Fights. Good morning, good morning, good morning, AC. Saying yes, Whitney Webb is a glowy. Thankfully, others see this. Okay, I mean, I don't have a strong opinion. I've heard kind of like I've always seen stuff in the periphery, kind of like little murmurs and like, but it was always like kind of weirdly tied up with like her custody thing or some shit. And so it's like I don't really know what to make of this. Like, and I don't know. People just say shit, so I never really like looked into any of it. And there was never any like crazy thing that stuck out to me. I was like, oh my god, that's wild. And I also was like not, I guess, that embroiled in whatever was going on over there when it was a big thing. So I knew there was like something, some sort of hoopla that I hadn't dug into. So, but I guess maybe we're waiting a little bit in today. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, someone dug into it, found some weird stuff. I guess like a family member, maybe some more. Like I said, we haven't dug into it entirely. We will do that together. Good morning, Captain Caveman. Says good morning. A lot more military aircraft traffic than normal in my hood. Couple big old transports that I've never seen. What's popping? Not much, man. That's why I don't really know what to make of that. For one, I guess I don't know where you are. Also, like I know I live kind of near, because I actually used to work at that military base I kind of live near MacDill, which is in Tampa. So I see military planes flying above all the time, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell, like when you like. Sometimes you just notice it more. It is always kind of like you don't really. I mean, I guess obviously I'm not seeing what you're seeing. So if you're seeing like an insane amount of military aircraft, something like, oh shit. But I'm just saying a lot of times just perception stuff. It may not be a whole lot going on you think there is, or I don't know. But yeah, we have plenty to talk about on that front. I do think some weird stuff is probably happening over in the Middle East, but unfortunately, I actually think it's probably a whole lot less military, a whole lot less aircraft related than it might be like boots on the ground. So that's concerning. Good morning. Hey, say what now? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Marty Mac, calling you all fagots. Good morning, Adam Bobby. Good morning, good morning. AC saying WW came from nowhere and was instantly an Epstein expert, from nowhere to an expert. Okay. I guess by the time I was already like paying attention to her, she was already like established from what I knew, and she kind of had been established for a while. So I guess it depends on when you're... I didn't realize she was like a blow up success, because when I like started, because like this show when I started out was far more into like political theory and stuff, and as time got on I got more into parapolitics, so that's when I became more aware of Webb. But I always like knew of her, and she was always kind of a big name. So I guess by the time I was paying attention, there was already 2 of her books out. So and I read them, and I obviously haven't like verified every little factoid, and I know people say that a lot of that's retreads of other people's stuff, but whatever. Thought it was a pretty good book. So I just kind of always seen like the accolades she's gotten kind of be like, seems pretty fairly well deserved. So good morning, Sirhan Solo, asking if I've listened to Johnny Vedmore's Epstein musical podcast yet. No, I can't say I have. I did not know he had a musical podcast. I know of Vedmore. We're mutuals. He's one of those guys that one of these days I want to get in the show or something. I just never got around to it. So AC saying which you're getting a lot of shine, but hey, you keep catching my interest. Saying Webb and the reporter in Miami used a lot of Ed Opperman's research without credit, in my opinion. Okay, that's what I hear a lot, is everyone saying, oh, they use this research, that research, and I don't know. If anything, I always see that stuff and I find it kind of roll my eyes at that stuff. I find it. I mean, I get it. There is truth to that, but at the same time, it's like there's no such thing as an original idea, and it does get a little bit tiring sometimes. In this realm, you're like, well, who to credit that? I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, obviously. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like once that information's out there, it's out there. If I'm the one who contributed, I don't. I mean, I guess I'd prefer you mention me if you can, but I'm just not going to be gay about it if you can't. So I don't know. I guess it depends the degree to which he's done it. But even then, I've seen her get asked about this stuff places, and she's always been kind of like, yeah, I'm not like I haven't originally sourced all of my information. I'm getting information from other people. So I don't really think she's like claiming to the opposite. So maybe she just hasn't given due credit at certain times. I don't know. Just giving her the benefit of the doubt here. But good morning, Tom. Good morning, Mike Morgado. Good morning, Emily Lawrence. Good morning. Shit, I accidentally jumped. Give me a second. Crap. Oh, here we go. Good morning, Jeff. Says Professor Hamamoto says she's probably a he. I don't know who Professor Hamamoto is, but that is funny for sure. Hey, say what now? Said Vedmore did a lot of Whitney's research. Yeah, they were like married or some shit. So yeah, he's been around for quite a while. I haven't seen anything sus about him. Yeah, I don't really know anything particularly about him. He's always seemed cool enough. So, and I have heard that too, that he did a lot of research, but my impression was that she did a lot of my research, and that's fine. And I think he's kind of given her ups for her work, is my understanding. So, AC says Webb is a handler for the narrative. They know it's coming out, so it needs to be controlled. Perhaps. I mean, I'm open to that for sure. Good morning, Squeaky, saying I enjoy Whitney. Yeah, she seems cool. Good morning, Tara. Good morning. John AC saying Vedmore seems like the real deal. Yeah, he seems cool. What else we got? Squeaky's saying if I did get Vedmore on the show, ask him about Whitney. I actually saw something on Twitter about him replying to something about her a while back. And he seems to be hesitant to do. I'd feel weird. It is an awkward situation because you almost like feel like you kind of almost have to because you're like, that is interesting information. At the same time, it's like they have a kid together. So like I totally get, and they've gone to court over stuff. So it's like there's legal complications. There's familial complications. I totally get why it'd be like, it kind of put a damper. I mean, maybe I'd ask one or two questions near like the end of an interview or something. But I don't know. That just seems like a weird box to open. AC mentioned something about he said similar to or you're saying Webb is similar to Professor Jang type viral hyper reality experience. Have I looked into that? Yes, I've been seeing a little. I'm not gonna lie, the Jang thing for a moment I found him like, I kind of like raised my eyebrows like, okay, kind of interesting because he's saying a lot of stuff I think or some would agree with. And then after a while, you do realize he really is just like, oh, so Jews. Why did I do a Jew voice? So Jew. I can't even do an Asian voice right now in my head. I keep defaulting to Jew voice. Whatever. He just does. You kind of see the trick after a while. As I'm saying, he's not really providing. He doesn't really provide any sources. Not that I'm some like source, Nazi or whatever. But the way he makes crazy claims and then he just doesn't. Just backing up. He's like, right. And he just kind of like, he just says it with like a weird sense of authority. I don't know. Yeah, he does. The Zhang thing is very sketch. And then that dude is also like, he's some fucking teacher he's like he has an English bachelor's or some shit. And he teaches high school in like China to some like prep school which has like kind of weird ties to Yale or something, I think. So it kind of seems to like have some American/Chinese elite that he's kind of it glows. Yeah, he went to Yale too. Zhang is I think he also got like I don't know if he got arrested or just detained or whatever, or like I guess he did get arrested either way, but I don't know if he ended up getting charged. But I think they either I know that he at least got, I think, detained at the very least for what do I say this? For not accusations, for essentially them thinking he was some sort of spy, some sort of American spy. I couldn't figure out how to phrase that correctly the way I wanted to. But yes, he sketches me out, Jang, and he's kind of just like everyone's like he went on Breaking Points and just dropped like some crazy Sabatean drops, which don't get me wrong, dope, but you're like, it was like, what the fuck? Which that got me looking at him a little bit, and then I realized like, oh, he's saying all this wild shit, but then just like not backing it up at all. He does this like, I don't know. Anyways, I need to move on past the Jang thing. That is one that's like caught my interest big time. So, Captain Caveman says we got a big military drone center. Okay, well that's a little concerning. The drone war might be interesting for sure. What else we got in here? Good morning, Zachary Henderson, saying she hasn't betrayed her audience at this point. She gave more information about Epstein and associates in the FBI. She calls out people who she believes are controlled opposition when it's relevant. Yeah, that's kind of been my impression. Like I said, we're going to dig through some stuff, so that's been my impression. I've never seen her doing anything untowards. I've seen lots of people get like the Dawsons of the world, which I know a lot of people like Dawson, and Dawson does great work, but he is an insufferable faggot when it comes to that sort of shit. I'm sorry, he just is. Like, especially when it comes to crediting my work or he's the first guy to like if you see some big show is doing like an interview and let's say I can't even think of a name. Let's think they were doing an Epstein podcast or something, and I can't even think of a name. But it's like say it's somebody who's not like the top tier expert. Ryan Dawson will be the first person to be the replies. Be like, you should have had me on. This person doesn't know anything they're talking. That's just how Ryan is. He's his own worst enemy. So yeah. So I mean, now maybe it's just maybe Ryan has a point, and then like these two things can be true at the same time. Ryan can be an insufferable autist, and she could also be a glowy. But it's kind of like when that's like from the outside looking in, what you see, you're like, yeah, I think Ryan's just being Ryan, and then everyone's jumping on and jumping on her. At least that's perception from the outside looking in. But we'll dig into it. So. All right. Let's get into it. There's a lot of good chats in here I want to go into, but I don't want to get too sucked into the chat. We haven't gotten past the icebreaker stuff, and you guys keep dropping heaters in the chat. So we'll talk again on the next go around. We got to get into foreign policy, guys. Let's jump right into it. I showed you some squirrels smoking heaters, and showed you someone who evaded the FBI. Let's get into less fun things. Let's get into death around the world, mostly as a result of that guy we put in the Oval Office of the United States of America. All right, I wasn't with you guys yesterday, so a little bit of catching up here today. So a little bit beefier foreign policy coverage. But not too bad. Apparently, this is from yesterday, technically 2 days ago, but it was later in the day. It says, U.S. sends Iran 15-point proposal to end war, but no sign Tehran is interested in talks. So I know we've been kind of had a lot to say about, kind of whether they're talking, whether they're not. I'm of the opinion they've been leaving us on red, and I guess, then after a while, the U.S. just sent over this 15-point proposal, which kind of seems like the equivalent of like a desperate, like, she's not responding to me, she's not responding to me. I bet you if I send a dick pic, that'll work. She's not interested, dude. But anyways, they sent over a 15-point proposal to Iran to end the war that the U.S. and Israel launched on February 28th, but there's still no sign Tehran is interested in negotiations at the moment, despite Trump's claims they've been happening. According to a report by Middle East Eye, the 15 points include a series of demands that Iran is unlikely to accept. Iran's position is that it's currently not interested in diplomacy with the U.S. since it has been attacked twice now during negotiations and doesn't want a ceasefire until it can get guarantees to ensure another war won't happen again in the future. Israeli media reports say that the U.S. proposal would involve a 1-month ceasefire while the deal is being negotiated. Israel's Channel 12 published what is purported to be the 14 of the 15 points. listed at the end of this article, which we will read in a minute. According to Barak Ravid, which is an Axios reporter, former Israeli intelligence officer, the U.S. and mediating countries have discussed the possibility of holding a summit with Iran on Thursday, but there has still been no Iranian response to the proposal. I do think it's hilarious that it is like they legitimately might be sending people over there just to sit around, hoping that eventually Iran talks to them. In public comments, Iran has dismissed the idea that Trump is genuine about diplomacy and has described his comments as an effort to manipulate global oil prices. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Let's go through some of these points because they are pretty significant. These are the points. These are rumored. These are like you kind of. These are the reports. So obviously now I have an update on this anyway. So obviously we don't know 100% that this is exactly how it is. There might be some language barriers, but generally speaking, these are the reports that we're getting. So this, and even then they're only saying it's 14 out of 15 points for whatever reason. One of them they weren't able to get to us. 1, Iran must dismantle its existing nuclear capabilities. Which supposedly they already did. Remember, we supposedly bombed their nuclear program into the Stone Age or whatever. 2, Iran must commit never to pursue nuclear weapons. That's what they had done already. 3, there will be no uranium enrichment on Iranian territory, which I think they actually already agreed to that, if I remember correctly, because they're saying on Iranian territory. I remember there was I think there was one idea being kicked around where it was like they'd do enrichment, but it'd be like on another country. Anyways, 4, Iran must hand its stockpile of some 450 kilograms of uranium enriched to 60% to the IAEA in the near future in a timetable to be agreed, which that's the one that supposedly they destroyed, so I don't know. The Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo nuclear facilities must be dismantled, which they supposedly are, right? The IAEA, the UN's nuclear watchdog, must be granted full access, transparency, and oversight inside Iran. 7, Iran must abandon its regional proxy paradigm. Now that's where you're getting out of hand, getting ridiculous. You can't have allies. I guess obviously they can kind of quibble about what that would mean. 8, Iran must seize the funding, direction, and arming of its regional proxies. Seems like just a repeat of 7. 9, the Strait of Hormuz must remain open and function as a free maritime corridor, which, I mean, if they settle things down, they probably would. 10, Iran's missile program must be limited in both range and quantity with specific thresholds determined at a later stage. So that's cool. That's good-ish. I mean, it's kind of gay in the first place to even be like, we're going to put any sort of limits on any other country's missile program because it's just a weird, I don't know, where do you get off type thing. But now I guess at first they were saying they weren't even allowed to have a missile program, like a missile program at all, which is an insane thing to say for a country that needs to defend itself, especially when they're near Israel. But now at least they're talking. Now they're kind of in the realm of like, okay, whatever. We'll quibble about the range, whatever the fuck, whatever. They come up with some sort of treaties, I guess. 11, any future use of missiles would be restricted to self-defense. I like that. In return, Iran would benefit as follows. 12, Iran would receive a full lifting of sanctions imposed by the international community, which that's actually pretty huge. For those who understand the history of sanctions and Iran. 13, the U.S. would assist Iran in advancing its civilian nuclear program, including electricity generation at the Bushehr nuclear plant. 14, the so-called snapback mechanism, which allows for the automatic reimposition of sanctions if Iran fails to comply, would be removed. So that's a positive, too, because that was always like part of the deal, I think, before, where it was like, like they would always kind of hold it over their head and find the tiniest. I would always hear these stupid fucking stories that come out like every 4 months or so about something, and you come to find out later it was some fucking Mossad op of some sort. But anyways, there'd be a story floated around, this report or whatever. Are they doing this thing they're not supposed to do? And so it's always have this looming threat over their heads of like, you're going to lose all your shit. Like, you're going to we're going to go right back to the drawing board, start this all over again, go back to mowing the grass. Because that's the big thing here is they don't want to deal with this like regular thing where, so they don't want to have a deal where it'll be like there's some out and then like immediately, just right back to the way we were. Let's go to a deal. We're bombing you. Oh, just kidding. We're bombing you. So they don't want to end up in that situation again. So I know that's pretty solid, frankly. I mean, it's funny. A lot of it's mostly just hot air in the sense that it's like this is stuff that like it's kind of almost unnecessary. This is stuff they kind of had already agreed to before. But it's kind of a lot of saving face in there. All right, moving on though. Apparently though, I don't know what we're even doing here because like I think we've won this thing according to Trump. We've already won it. We've already won this thing. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to actually. I meant to different. I'm preparing the wrong clip. I'm sorry, giving the wrong clip. What I actually meant to say is apparently. Here's Trump saying that apparently though that he's already gotten them to agree to not have a nuclear weapon. So let's watch this. Make sure I got it. There we go.
To make you want to pursue a ceasefire. A few days ago, you said you wanted to continue bombing Iran. Now you want to pursue peace talks. Was there something that happened?
The fact that they're talking to us and they're talking sense. And remember, it all starts with they cannot have a nuclear weapon. Just, I said yesterday, what are the top 10? I said, well, number 1, 2, and 3 is they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. And we're talking about that. And I don't want to say in advance, but they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that.
Okay, now that's kind of wild. Now at the end there, they go, they've agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They've agreed to that. And even then he kind of was like, I don't want to say nothing, and then says something fucking huge. Although, once again, I still don't believe these people are talking at all, to be completely honest. I don't believe these people are talking. I believe that's all bullshit. Now, if I'm going to give the tiniest bit of like because I think there is something to this. When people do this like bending, I mean, every now and then, yeah, these people just lie. But I do think a lot of times in these political games, the way they're played is like, we're going to lie while telling the truth. And I think I think if we're going to play that game here, if we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt of like, oh, if he got brought into a court of law and like they were trying to press him on this and be like, did you lie? I bet you what he would say is be like, they said before they would never have a nuclear weapon. Because I don't know where they're getting this from. So they're saying they'll never. Now, I don't know. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm way too jaded. Hopefully there's been some behind. I mean, Iran's still claiming up and down that they have not been having discussions. So I find it pretty wild that, like, even if he's having some sort of intermediary discussions, that would anyway amount to, oh, yeah, the current stance of the Iranian government is that they will never have a nuclear weapon. Maybe he talked to somebody, some intermediary that's like, oh, I'll pass this along. I mean, I don't know how you could even interpret it that way. The only way you could interpret this at any level of truth would be like, oh yeah, because the previous round. Unless, like I said, he's somehow talking to somebody, but I don't think so. I just thought it was wild. He's saying they agreed they will never have a nuclear weapon. They agreed to that. So I'm hoping maybe that's true, because we are still waiting to hear that. For those who are unaware, there's a fatwa with the previous Ayatollah, which is in a religious edict on no nukes. So they were completely against nukes. They didn't want to have nukes. All this time we were having these back and forths. We always had literally their government stances. We do not want nukes. We will never have nukes. And then we killed the guy that had that religious edict. And the way that works in their religious system is, I guess, now that fatwa no longer exists. So we're kind of in this weird limbo where we don't know what the current Ayatollah's perspective is in the matter. So I'm hoping he has a similar perspective as his father, and hopefully maybe Trump is actually talking to him and he's heard these same things. But I don't know. If there's one thing to shake you out of those sort of peaceful aspirations, it's murdering your father, a bunch of your other family members, and I don't know, tons of innocents in your country. I'm sure that works great. But thankfully, though, we've won this war, so it's only the fake news that keeps this going. Let's listen to Trump.
We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times. You read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it. It's like, take me. That's all they can do. And yet, if you read the New York Times, or if you watch ABC fake news or NBC fake news, you'd say it's a close battle. It's not a close battle.
All right, Seal's trying to frame it as if we're winning. Like, it can't do anything. Well, you know what we can't do? We can't go through the Strait of Hormuz. We are still yet to go through the Strait of Hormuz. And this war that's non-existent, apparently Iran wants to keep it going. They turned out that proposal, and they laid out their own conditions. Iran's Press TV reported on Wednesday that Tehran has rejected the 15-point proposal to end the war and laid out its own conditions to end the conflict. Iran will end the war when it decides to do so and when its own conditions are met. An unnamed Iranian official told Press TV. The official added the U.S. proposal includes demands that are excessive considering the situation on the battlefield. The official pointed the fact that Iran has been attacked twice during previous negotiations with the U.S., fair point, suggesting the current U.S. push for diplomacy would be a deception. Publicly, Iranian officials have denied Trump's claim that the U.S. and Iran have held negotiations and have said that they don't seek a ceasefire. The official speaking to Press TV said Iran laid out 5 conditions to end the war, which include a complete halt to aggression and assassinations by the enemy, the establishment of concrete mechanisms to ensure that the war is not reimposed in the Islamic Republic, guaranteed and clearly defined payment of war damages and reparations, the end of the war across all fronts and for all resistance groups involved throughout the region, which includes an end to Israel's attack on Lebanon. Iran's exercise of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz is and will remain Iran's natural and legal right, and it constitutes a guarantee for the implementation of the other parties' commitments and must be recognized. According to a report from Axios, Iran had told mediating countries that it suspected the U.S. proposal was a ruse since it came as the U.S. was surging more troops to the region and planning for potential ground operations in Iran. A U.S. official told Axios reporter Barak Ravid that the U.S. hasn't received a formal response to the proposal through the mediators. Reuters reported that Iran was still reviewing the proposal despite the public rejection, but there are still signs that Iranian officials are taking the prospect of negotiations with the U.S. seriously. In the meantime, U.S.-Israeli strikes have continued to pound across Iran, and the Iranian military continues to launch drone and missile attacks across the region. So they said no, and here are our conditions. I don't know, we'll see. A lot of this, I don't think this will be agreed to either, although, frankly, pretty much all of this is fair. I mean, what was the first one? Halt to aggression and assassinations, 100% fair. Establishment of concrete mechanisms to ensure the war is not reimposed, 100% fair. Guaranteed and clearly defined payment of war damages and reparations. While a lot of people may not like it, that's 100% fair. It's a little bit shitty that it's like that's obviously going to come from off our back, out of our paychecks. But like, I don't know. I mean, that is like, I guess, fair in this game. I mean, it's like we got stolen from for this war, and we're gonna get stolen from to pay these people back. But don't worry about it. I mean, I don't think they're gonna. I'd be astounded if reparations were ever paid. So they'll almost certainly haggle their way out of that. I can't imagine the political fallout for that. That would be insane. But you know, pretty fair. If there were a case for reparations, this is it. The end of the war across all fronts and all resistance groups involved throughout the region. So the end of the war. So just ending all wars in that region. That's completely fair. I mean, that one I feel like probably reaching. I mean, because that's almost making prohibitive for this to even stop. I mean, unless they're just meaning U.S., because, I mean, trying to get Israel under control and getting them to stop all that would just be, I mean, I guess it would be possible. I mean, all you would need is a, president willing to, have some balls, but you'd probably lose their head. And then I guess they're asking for us to recognize that the Strait of Hormuz is like a sovereign location for them, and that like we can't bitch about them shutting it down. So, I don't know, relatively all pretty reasonable, but let's be real, that's not happening. So, but I don't know. Hopefully things move forward. Apparently we have reports too that they're kind of on the positive side of things, that apparently they're open to negotiating with J.D. Vance. I guess they've said they will no longer negotiate with Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Apparently they've referred to them as foreign agents serving Israel. Now this obviously would be a good move for J.D. Vance. He has been very much in the dump so far as favorability has been lately, And I think this will probably be good for him politically speaking. Obviously, I have my dad. I don't like this guy. I mean, let's be real. This guy's a teal creation. He's a joke. But I will say, like, hey, if this makes things happen, but I just, just be aware of the political moves happening. So I hope, if JD can somehow come to the table and somehow just be a different face that somehow makes this work out in a favorable way for everybody to where there's less bloodshed, great. Still not voting for him in 2028 or whenever the hell the next. Yeah, was it? Yeah, 2028. So still not voting for him. Still think he'd be a nightmare, and he is a shell of a human being. He's just whatever his sponsors want him to be, which is pretty apparent too if you even follow his political career before and after Trump. But yeah, so that's interesting. Maybe we get some sort of Vance thing. I think there's a little bit of a cinematic aspect to this too. That if you want to, I don't know, how do I put this? I don't know, just something like just seems movie-like about this, and this would almost be like perfect, even from a conspiracy type perspective. If you're pulling the strings to set up things, to kind of have like to save your ass, especially because it's like I said, he's been out of favorability lately. He's just kind of mucked up everything these days. So this would be a really good move for him if you're like his political sponsors or political handlers. If you're like, God damn, we need a W. Like, this would be it. Like, if he could somehow, or even, and he doesn't even actually have to get anything done. Even if he can just position himself as being, separating himself from Trump here, because this would be a good way to do that in a diplomatic way. Because that's a lot of his issues, too, in this term, is that, like, Trump has been doing crazy, fucked up shit over and over and over again. And a lot of it is stuff that's, like, kind of cuts to the core of what JD is supposedly the character he's created supposed to stand for. And he's not able to voice his concern because he's a VP. Like, it's just kind of not your role. So it just would be an interesting moment for him where he'd be able to separate himself in a meaningful way while not actually really in any way committing to anything. Like, he could literally kind of do the same, like, he could just kind of do nothing over there, and just as long as he's saying the right word. Kind of like when he went over to Israel a while back, and he had that dumb fucking, he got asked about, like, oh, they're annexing the West Bank over there, and I don't remember what he said, but it was kind of like, the fuck they are. Well, they need to not be doing that shit. Oh, and he got to be a big tough guy for a moment, and like literally it was like nothing fucking changed. Like, they were still annexing the West Bank, just like they're fucking occupying it all the same today. So it would be another one of those good moments like that. Because a lot of people, if you're someone who's only paying attention to the surface level, you may remember things like that and go, oh, wow, yeah, that sets him apart from Donald Trump. Wow, he really is. He's not going to get pushed around by Bibi Netanyahu if he gets in the White House. Like, these sort of fucking silly games. So I'm just saying, be aware of the jaded side of this, but also this is a W if it does happen. So I just want the war to come to an end. But on the flip side, a little less optimistic, we got Ryan Grimm here telling us about a little bit of an inside source he's got. This kind of speaks a little bit to one of the guys in the chat was saying they were seeing a whole lot of aircrafts moving around near their little drone base, which, like I said, I don't know what all that means. That could mean nothing. That could mean a bunch too. But he's saying a source tells me that Navy special warfare teams were also given deployment orders yesterday, as well as a bunch of Tier 1 operators. That plus the 82nd Airborne deployment plus Netanyahu's obvious feint that he expects a ceasefire agreement this weekend suggests all the pieces are in place for ground operation within day. Yeah. And that would totally fall in line, too, for our ongoing weekend wars. So within day, I think Ryan's probably right. I don't know, I wouldn't put a ton of money on it, but I'd put a decent amount of money on that. I wouldn't be surprised if something Friday night, Saturday morning pops off, maybe midday Friday, some sort of offensive near Carg Island of some sort. I don't know exactly how it would happen, but I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if that happens. And that way, and you have, as he mentioned in that too, apparently Netanyahu recently was kind of made some statements about, maybe a ceasefire happening. So he's signaling beforehand. So if you're jaded looking at it from a market perspective, they're signaling beforehand. All this like theater that we just covered about the back and forth for the conditions for to end the war. So we have all these signals. Maybe they're coming to an end, and then boom, 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 we're in the weekend, and then when this is obviously goes tits up or whatever, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another some sort of true social moment from Trump, which I don't know how you play that one off. Where 57 of our troops are dead, but I mean we're totally winning super bigly. But we just took all sanctions off Iran to ease they'll find some way to twist it or whatever. I don't know how you walk away from that one, but they'll do something. They'll do like, I think we've come to an agreement after we've displayed our complete overwhelming force. Or he'll find some way to spin it as if it's like overwhelming force and they don't want none. And then it'll be like, 24 hours later, we'll get Iranian leadership saying, no, that's complete bullshit. But whatever, at that point, it's been just enough to somewhat dampen the markets, just a tiny bit. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully none of this happens. But it does make you wonder how the fuck this stuff is happening. I mean, obviously, I'm a little more schizo. I think, Trump is, there's layers to this shit. I wouldn't be surprised if people are sucking down babies and shit if he was on tape banging kids. But if you're looking for a little bit more, I don't know, comical or, I don't know, simplistic reasoning, he's just really a stupid fucking boomer. He may just be a stupid fucking boomer. Here's NBC News saying inside Trump's daily video montage briefing on the Iran war. It says the montage, which typically runs for about 2 minutes, has raised concerns among some of the president's allies that he may not be receiving the complete picture of the war. So it's my understanding, right, just to sum this up real quick, apparently he gets daily video montages of what's going on in the war. So he just gets a roll of boom, 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 boom every day. And I think, I mean, I don't know if that's the extent of his briefing on the war, but I'd be willing to bet money is probably the majority of his briefing. So to him, he's just saying boom, 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 and go, wow, we are dominating. So maybe he's really just a stupid boomer. He's that simplistic of a view. Let's read a couple paragraphs of this. It says, each day since the start of the war in Iran, U.S. military officials compile a video update for Trump that shows video of the biggest, most successful strikes on Iranian targets over the previous 48 hours. 3 current U.S. officials and a former U.S. official said. The daily montage typically runs for about 2 minutes, sometimes longer, the officials said. One described each daily video as a series of clips of stuff blowing up. The highlight reel of U.S. CENTCOM bombing Iranian equipment, and military sites isn't the only briefing Trump gets about the war. He's also updated through conversations with top military and intelligence advisors, foreign leaders, and news reports, the official says. So it's not his only, but he's also getting this dumbed down montage every day. So just to get a little inside look of how they're operating. We got Iranian officials suggesting the Houthis could also get involved. They could close the Bab el-Mandab Strait if U.S. launches ground attacks. So with these lingering concerns about ground attacks, this shit could get worse. Looks like I have noticed, at least in my neck of the woods, that surprisingly gas prices came a little bit down, but things would pick back up pretty badly if this popped off. So threats, which a lot of people don't realize this, but the Houthis were some of the realest G's when it came to hooking up Gaza or helping out Gaza back in the day when things were really crazy. I mean, things still aren't great there. But they had shut down their strait, caused all sorts of problems. You remember we had a little bit of our own little Houthi war that we ended up giving up on because they essentially were wrecking our shit over and over again. And just simply would not die, despite the fact they kept dying over and over again. But yeah, that was a big deal. But we could see that pop off all over again and just be adding to our problems. So this would be them blockading the Red Sea, which is another important spot for travel, for commerce, and so yeah, we could be seeing more issues. I mean, as this is happening too, we have Iran's now making deals with India, selling tons of oil. So, I mean, and the deal is that they're letting people go through these different the blockades in the Hormuz. So I'm assuming if the Houthi thing popped off, it'd probably be all the same. So essentially, we're just creating areas that are prohibited for us and our allies. And for those who want to go that route, want to get gas through Iran, all they have to do is use Chinese money instead. They have to. I think they're not able. I think there's certain specific like military, like they can't have military bases. But it doesn't seem all that crazy. So they're kind of just sweetening the deal over and over again for the rest of the world to, I don't know, completely butt fuck our petrodollar. So not looking good. Not looking good. We also got stuff heating up with the Iraq still. Apparently, we had an airstrike kill 7 Iraqi soldiers in the past 24 hours. So I got more airstrikes and that. So that's, that could pop off. We got Lebanon. We got the Israeli Defense Minister says Israel to occupy all of Lebanon south of the Litani River. So we've talked about this, a few times. There's been different of the ministers pop in there to make different, escalatory statements. You're like, we're going to buffer zone. We're going to occupy, we're going to do this. We're going to annex. And so now they're all at the point where, hey, we are going to occupy. So that's where they are now. They are occupying too. So yeah, they are saying that. We've also covered in the show too that they've been blowing up the bridges from the river, essentially making it impossible for people to move from one to the other, cutting off a whole region. So we are frankly kind of looking at a Nakba all over again. It's actually kind of astounding. I didn't realize this until I heard Dave DeCamp mention on the show this morning. It's actually literally worse than the Nakba. There have been 1 million people displaced from this, whereas I believe it was like 400 to 750,000 is my understanding of the Nakba. So I mean, these are trauma cycles. This is shit that we're going to be dealing with for decades to come. They've killed 1,094 people this month, including 121 people. And like I said, 1 million people displaced, ordered to evacuate, leave their houses. And I'm sure those houses are going to get destroyed. That's wealth disappearing. This is a decivilizing force. And I don't think these people are just going to let it go. They're going to desire justice. And so we're going to see, like I said, trauma cycles will abound here. Moving on, I could not mention this to you. Getting over to Latin America, we have an operation called Operation Total Extermination now. Yeah. I mean, wow. What do you even really say? Let's read a few paragraphs from The Intercept. It says, the Trump administration continues to bombard Iran. A top Pentagon official revealed that U.S. wars in the Western Hemisphere are also expanding, unveiling an effort dubbed Operation Total Extermination. Attacks on Latin American drug cartels are just the beginning. Joseph Humir, the acting Assistant Secretary of War for Homeland Defense and America's Security Affairs, told members of the House Armed Services Committee last week. Humir indicated that many more strikes in Latin America are on the horizon. The comments came a day after Trump again teased American annexation of Cuba. I said, I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba, Trump said last week. Whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. Humir announced the Department of War supported bilateral kinetic actions against cartel targets along the Colombia-Ecuador border. Pentagon speak for March 3rd strikes on unnamed designated terrorist organizations previously reported by The Intercept. The joint effort, named Operation Total Extermination, is the start of a military offensive by Ecuador against transnational criminal organizations with the support of the U.S. The U.S. Ecuadorian campaign has already strayed into Colombia after a farm was bombed or hit by a ricochet effect on March 3rd, leaving a 500-pound bomb lying in Colombia's border region. And it gets even crazier. Apparently, there was another one of these attacks for Operation Total Extermination. I can't repeat that enough. It was on a dairy farm. So that's great. Keep in mind, as we have these new drug wars popping off, these narco drug war or narco terrorist war, whatever the hell we're going to call them, going off in our southern hemisphere. We got part 2 of the terror wars popping off from the Middle East. And I just think, keep in mind, you're going to hear from both of these excursions, intel. Keep in mind, they attacked a dairy farm. So apparently the U.S. aided an attack on a cattle and dairy farm in Ecuador earlier this month. The Department of War claimed the operation targeted a drug lab Early March, U.S. and Ecuador conducted joint military operations against alleged drug targets. Operations are a powerful example of the commitment of partners in Latin America and the Caribbean to combat the scourge of narco-terrorism, U.S. Southcom said following the raid. However, the New York Times reports the target of the operation was a dairy farm, not a drug lab. Military strike appears to have destroyed a cattle and dairy farm, not a drug trafficking compound, according to interviews with the farm's owner, 4 of its workers, human rights lawyers, and residents and leaders in San Martin. So anytime we cover in the show, we see those boats getting blown up in whatever in the Caribbean or the Pacific or wherever they happen to be doing at that given time, and they go based on intel. Keep in mind how strong this intel is, that they are just flagrantly murdering people with. So, Operation Total Extermination going off swimmingly. And then just one last little teaser. What's going on? Everyone's forgotten about the old Russia-Ukraine war, but it's still popping off. Getting extra dystopian. Apparently, there have been major drone attacks. So Russia fired over 900 drones into Ukraine on Tuesday, which was followed by the largest Ukrainian drone attack on Russian territory. So all this and more for our terrorific future. Great stuff. Isn't it wonderful to think that our new Normandy is going to be, young men storming the beaches of Karg as they're, mowed down by murder robots? That's how far we've come. Time is a flat circle. Nothing changes, but everything changes, everything changes while also not changes. So it's like a spiral. That's what it is. We're just kind of spiraling. Like we're just doing Normandy all over again, but this time it's like, but with robots. So wonderful stuff. All right, let's go to the chat. Say some more good mornings, and then let's get into the first main topic of the day, talking about whether Whitney Webb glows. Man, I got a good amount of y'all in here today. Cool. Let's roll with the chat. Say some more good mornings. $2 from Boomer Sooner, saying feed the kiddies fund. Hell yeah, appreciate it, brother. Appreciate the support. No friends, says Northside. I don't know if I said good morning to you already. Good morning. Good morning, Marty McFly. Good morning. Tara Jackson says for not being fake Jose. Little prayer hands. And chat love. Thank you, Tara Jackson. Much thanks for the support. Appreciate it, you guys. Marty McFly says he's interested in the web stuff. We will get into the web stuff. You popped in just as time. Good morning, Reese. Saying baby smoothies and retard boomers. Not sure the context here, but I love it. Derek Gillespie says he starts every day with snuff film. Awesome. Oh, so you were referring to the Trump thing, Reese. Good morning to you, Derek. That is an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, he does start every day with a snuff film. That totally checks out. Probably like the real snuff stuff, and then he gets into the soft snuff stuff after. Or maybe this is his warm-up into the hardcore snuff stuff. Man, say that 5 times quick. All right. Good morning, Swedish Doom Goblin. Do you think soldiers know about the Epstein leak, or are they too busy with licking boots? I mean, if you were still in the military, what would you do? Genuine question, by the way. If I was still in the military, that is a hard one. I mean, I'm not going to lie and be like, I'd be some fucking hero and be like, Commander, I'm not going to die for Israel. Kick me the fuck out. Because, that's not really how that works. You're probably just going to be having to deal with, all sorts of issues and, end up talking to all sorts of commanders and this and that. And just be a giant pain in the ass. So I know if I was still in the military, what would I do? Man, it's so hard because I do have a wife and kids, so it is a balancing act. But I don't know. I got out. I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I had too many of these close calls of oh man, this is fucked up, and I don't want this. I don't know. So now, do I think they know about the lead, or they're too busy? I think a lot of them are just normies. I mean, you can say that about normal people. Do they know about the Epstein elite? I mean, somewhat to the degree normal people do. So, I don't know. There's a lot of just dumb normies. So, and they just get stuck in normiedom and are just doing things. And they're not even really bad people, They have this idea that they think somehow this, is helpful, that it's a valiant thing to do, and they just don't focus on the L's here and there. So, I don't know. The cognitive dissonance is a bitch. So what would I do though? I mean, it really would vary, depend on what the situation is at that time, I guess. I mean, I would probably refuse to deploy at the very least, because I think you kind of can do that. I mean, they could probably like push it, because you can like technically, I think, reject orders like once. I think it's weird. It's like, it depends on like how long you've been or whatever. There's weirdness to it. And I think that all that really does is it like reduces your like re-enlistment incentives, if that makes sense. Like, because I vaguely recall it'd be like you could technically return down orders, but then it would mean that like, that means that like if there was like a base of preference or any of these different like other little things that they give you for incentives, you would no longer be applicable for it in the future. Sometimes I think they may even make it so you can't even re-enlist if that's the case. So it's like, oh, well, you don't want to go? Well, okay. So yeah, I would probably just, turn down order. But now they can technically then give you orders again, and then you could just get in like legitimate trouble. And but I don't know. I mean, I think you'd probably be all right. You'd probably just end up getting out with like, they'd probably be really annoying, but you'd end up getting out with like a general discharge or something after a while in this current military. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, I do think more people should do that if they can, gum up the works, be like, I'm not going. You can go fuck yourself. I'm not going, which easier said than done, because it's like I spent time building up other things and, other stuff to try to make other income and do this. And even that shit's still tight. So I can't imagine in this day and age if I had not worked to build anything up and just being like, oh, fuck it, I'm getting out of the military. It's like, we'll just sell your house, fucking... I know, a lot easier said than done. So I don't know. I mean, I'd hope there's enough people that are thinking seriously about it though, because it's fucked up shit, and it's also like it's not gonna go well. I don't know. I mean, that shit grades on you too. Good morning, user says, if you're in contact with the dude Donut, can you ask him about being invested in Palantir and how much money he made? He's still in bed with them. I'm not really like buddies. I'm not like enemies or anything with them, but I don't really have like any sort of in with Donut. I don't even think I've ever done a show with Donut. I know I think he did Already Dead once when I was out. So, but yeah, I mean, he's cool enough. So, but yeah, I don't have any sort of in there. So I don't really even know what you're talking about. All right. Sorry. Let's get into Whitney Webb glowing. Let me see. Well, I was going to give you guys a little bit of Epstein info, but I did ramble a lot. Maybe we'll save that for tomorrow. I was going to dig a little bit deeper into that Rothschild raid that we talked about on Already Dead the other day, but I think I'll maybe squeeze that into something for tomorrow's show. So let's get right into the Whitney Webb stuff. Well, this will probably be a shorter thing. We're just going to be digging into the ins and outs of this. I guess first let's look at who's making these claims first off. This is Kirby Summers. I've seen her pop up with some viral posts every now and then. Kirby Summers, it's a profile pic, and as this author, journalist, historian, former sex slave. Okay, books: Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Franklin, child abuse, crime, espionage, memoir, billionaire's woman. Now, I've never read any of her work. No, I'm not like someone who's like read all the works in that realm or something. So I mean. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. I've read, so far as like Epstein stuff or even related, I guess pretty much just the Whitney Webb books, both volumes. I guess you could say Nick Bryant. Obviously Nick Bryant, but Nick Bryant didn't like write a book on Epstein, but it like kind of circles it. Obviously Franklin Scandal, I read that of his. I read, I read pretty much all of his. But anyways, just to give you an idea where I'm at there, I don't really know the broad, so I don't know necessarily anything negative or positive. I will say, like, she does post some stuff that I'm kind of like, I don't know if I'm kind of like, okay, that's kind of wild. She posts some pretty wild viral tweets sometimes, so, but she does talk about Epstein stuff, and a lot of that shit, that stuff is wild in there and is true, so. I guess just kind of like with limited knowledge and looking at it from the periphery, it looks kind of salacious, kind of gives me vibes that maybe some of her stuff is bullshit. I don't know. That's just, it kind of feels like one of those ones, but who knows? Maybe completely legit. Like I said, I'm only kind of know her from the outside looking in. But apparently she's kind of thrown out some claims about Whitney Webb. Apparently Whitney Webb's father, Richard S. Webb, the fourth had an office in the same building as Adnan Khashoggi. Webb's connections were revealed by the late Daniel Hopsicker in this piece. She says, read it carefully. So this is a piece from 2022 that she tagged or connected here. And 1 second, sorry. And real quick, before I guess we dig into that piece too, that it says right here, and as for the fact that Richard Spur Webb, the fourth, is Whitney's father, there's this. So now we see an obituary. So she found an obituary. So keep in mind, this is a Richard Spur Webb. I see here a Richard S. Webb is showing as well. So just to verify we're talking about the right people. So here is an obituary for Patricia Webb, who died in 11 May 2024. Patricia Webb, at 100 years old, born in 1924 to William and Lillian Rimmer. Pat remembered a happy childhood in her small town, riding her red bicycle and playing games under the neighborhood streetlights. Plays, debate team, and elocution contests were an integral part of her school years. Her parents were avid bridge players, and Pat enjoyed bridge throughout her life as well. She attended Stevens College and graduated from the University of Kentucky with a U.S. in Commerce. She was a member of Kappa Delta sorority. In 1970, she returned to UK for another degree, an A.B. in education, graduating with distinction. She was the wife of the late Richard Spur Webb III, so that would be the grandpa of Whitney Webb, and is survived by her son, Richard Spur Webb IV. So there you go, Richard Spur Webb, the fourth, daughter Lillian Webb Parr, and then grandchildren Whitney Elise Webb. So Allyse. I don't know Whitney's middle name, so maybe who knows? Maybe that's wrong. Maybe her middle name's different. But Whitney seems pretty specific here. Seems legit. And then it goes on and on and on with other random like family members and stuff. So that's the stuff we need to know. So looks like it's the right person. It's kind of wild. All right. Let's look at this. Let's look at this piece that she referred to. See how long it is. See if we're gonna read it all. I don't know if I'll do that to you guys. Guess I could always push the Kirk stuff till tomorrow if I got to. But yeah, here's a piece. Realpolitik. By Daniel Hopsicker, which didn't he die a while back? Daniel Hopsicker, maybe some in the chat if you remember. What did he write? Didn't he write a Gladio book? I think Hopsicker, or so he's buried in The Boys, isn't he? Daniel Hopsicker. What did he write? Sorry, I'm looking him up real quick to be like, what did he write? Yeah, I think it's Barry in The Boys is the one most people refer to, I think, when they're talking about him. I know he's written a bunch, though. So anyways, so Sarasota FBI protected decade-long MAGA mega fund fraud. So this is in Sarasota, Florida, which is creepily close to me. That's very close to me. $1 billion a year criminal enterprise flourished for more than a decade in Sarasota, Florida, using a boiler room run by what financial crime specialists call a hyena pack of fraudsters and con men who manufactured phony shell and dummy front companies on an industrial scale ready to be used in money laundering and penny stock fraud. After operating with impunity for a number of years, the chief fraudster sought protection from prosecution with the Sarasota office of the FBI. Protection granted, he continued to operate. Why should it end? They were protected. Things became so laughable that in one memorable scam, every single officer except Andrea Battolotto was arrested for fraud. Just recently, law enforcement files from the local Sarasota Sheriff's Office revealed that the office seemed to acknowledge and codify Andrew M. Battolotto's arrangement with the FBI. Let me see if let's just get to the case. I want to find Whitney Webb in here because I mean, so it looks like he was, or not Whitney, but the dad. So let me see. Well, it only shows one Webb, so I'm assuming they're just saying that he was in here. I don't think it actually referenced him because I just Control F for Webb. Nothing came up in here. But this is what they're saying is So this is the office that they was working in. So I guess what they're just saying is that he did work here. So he's not, I guess, specifically mentioned this article, but he was working with this pretty corrupt unit in Sarasota, FBI unit. Well, let's read some more about this. I'm kind of interested now. Like, what exactly was her dad working into or getting into? Where did we leave off? Sorry, my bad. All right. What the hell happened to the wording here? Soon, Sarasota. Let's see what had become the. Sorry for the audio people. It did this weird thing where it filled along the edges, and it's all right. Sorry if you're listening on audio, you're like, what the fuck? Okay, something about white collar crime. As the FBI looked on while Steve Bannon's longtime alt-right MAGA buddy Andy Battellotto was busily busting out more than a dozen public companies, Andy Battellotto used public companies which had no assets and no product or staff, which were so ephemeral that many of their own investors remembered nothing about them. Maybe just a corporate name fitting smoke, forgotten by even the lowball penny stock suckers who invested their money in them. Battellotto's selling proposition was offering fleeting moments when someone mired in debt could buy a few $100s worth of Powerball lottery tickets and sit at the bar, making no attempt to scratch them off, happy to reside in a fragile moment of hope. Oh my God, this is way too poetic. Just get to the fucking point. Battellotto occasionally wrote for the alt-right paper Choice Breitbart. He also co-produced a number of Bannon's documentaries, but you remember his name? I mean, this is getting way too in the weeds here. I just want to know this stupid fucking office, and it keeps going off on little side tangents. All right, I might just move past this. Whatever. We got okay, moving on. Never mind. In Sarasota, there's an international mob-to-mob partnership which little resembles the Russiagate strawman Trump successfully branded a hoax through constantly repeating the same phrases over and over. The tactics usually cause brainwashing. Russia. Okay, what the fuck? All right, sorry. I'm just gonna think I might just move on past this. This is too convoluted to follow along, especially in this format. I may have to go read this on my own time. But either way, he was working in this fucking office that was kind of loosely associated with corruption here. Let's get into this a little bit though. So Kirby says many thanks to Artist Brutal for the work and time in outing Richard S. Webb as a CIA attorney for Adnan Khashoggi and his pals. He's also connected to Semyon Mogilevich, Steve Bannon, and Rudy Deckers. So let's dig through some of this. Let's look through a thread. Hopefully this is a little more understandable than trying to dig through that article that kept going on weird little tangents. Richard S. Webb IV. Here's a picture of him, attorney and counselors. iCard Merrill. So there's just more pictures of him. Here's his office. I guess we just kind of doxed his. Well, I guess you can't dox a business. That's his business. iCard Merrill, Cullis, Tim Furin, and Ginsburg. The name of the. Okay, here we go. The name. Okay, sorry. Just a little excerpt here from something. This mentions Adnan Khashoggi, but I don't know if this necessarily really proves that they were working together. It says the name of the big dog in the Vancouver stock market is left unsaid in this brief exchange. He is or was, since he died in 2016, Adnan Khashoggi, and his role will later loom large. 10 years later, when Jonathan Kershen's business partner, Andy Battellotto, was finally arrested, I wonder if Battellotto hadn't taken one look at the FBI agents busting him and seeing Chris Hansen from Dateline. Hansen, of course, specialized in busting up secret dates set up by hapless schlubs with underage girls, and underage girls played a relatively outsized role in Andy Battellotto's sex life, which has been entertainingly documented by the Sarasota Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's deputies were no stranger to the beach house where Bannon famously took up residence and registered to vote before the 2016 presidential election. He aimed to quell a variety of disturbances, including a rumor that his ex-wife was running a crack den. Oh yeah, we covered this in a show a while ago. But Bannon never lived in the house. When Sarasota deputies visited the house, it was always to see Andy Battellotto. Okay. I'm picking things up now because, okay, so there's that one crack house. I guess this is where that Andy Battellotto guy was at that we were just talking about a minute ago. So I'm seeing some of the connections here. Seems a little sloppy, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe something will be more solid here. More excerpts here. We got Jonathan Kirshen is currently away for a while. He says doing 20 years in federal prison. He was one of the principal Donald Trump connected actors in the Sarasota crime ring. Some ways, Kirshen is a personification of the foot soldier in today's transnational organized crime. He's multinational. He has dual U.S.-UK citizenship. His primary allegiance may be a third country, Israel, with whose interests he was apparently closely aligned, in a fourth country, Costa Rica, the country where Kirshen spent most of his time. Also, he's a specialty, international money laundering. The name of one of his most famous clients just came to light. Okay, all right, let's move on. I'm still not seeing like a solid connection. So we have, I don't even know how we know that this guy was working. He's an attorney. So we have an attorney, I guess, in the region. I'm not even seeing like a solid connection. This attorney even worked there. I mean, I guess they gave the address here. So I guess maybe that's the connection. I'm to assume that address is the same address, perhaps, as like this other place. So maybe those make this connection. So this seems pretty. I gotta be real. This does not seem solid to me at all. This seems pretty weak as fuck, to be honest. It says, ever wonder why Whitney Webb decided to live in Costa Rica? This is more from Kirby. Perhaps you might want to perform a simple search using the name of an infamous drug criminal, Jonathan Kirshen. Oh, and she's also connected to Eric Prince, who she pretends to be outing. This is, I gotta be real. This is incredibly fucking stupid and sloppy. I'm gonna have to go back and read this piece to go, because I don't want to like spend too much time, because it looks kind of longer, and it does seem to kind of meander about, so I don't want to waste you guys' time with that. But I mean, even in that article, we controlled F, looked for Webb, name's not mentioned in there, so I don't know where we're even getting that he's somehow a CIA attorney for Adnan Khashoggi. Just I really don't. So. All right, moving on. Whitney Webb is a CIA plant, is what Kirby Somers says, as is George Webb. Here's your own start. Do your own research. Here's a start. So, okay, and then she just posts the I think it's just it's the same one again. It's just the same one. She just shared a link for the same thing we read earlier. Maybe we'll go back and maybe we'll just read that just to, I don't know. And then going on, it says, then she goes, she says, she tags Ryan in this. She says, Whitney Webb didn't just steal your research. She appears to have firsthand knowledge. Her father is CIA, connected to all these protected CIA, FBI criminals, which include 9/11. And as a confirmation, I'm sorry, this is fucking stupid. I mean, unless there's some like crazy thing missing in this article. All right, I'm sorry. I know this is a little bit sloppy, not to get, but this is a dump. This is an info dump. I'm going to say fuck it. Let's read this. She keeps relinking this one post. So let's just read. Let's try read it again. I know it's kind of weird. Even like the format here gets wonky where it does this thing. But let's try to get through it, because maybe there's something in here that makes what she's saying even a little bit more understandable. But yeah, not seeing it right now at all. I almost feel like dumb, like I'm missing something here. So yeah, I mean, I think she did identify who the dad is, and I think she showed that the dad is some lawyer. I mean, and I guess maybe he worked near an FBI office once, or maybe even in the same as one as an FBI office. I don't know how we get from there to there, but all right, let's read this piece again. Let's try this one more time. Let's jump in with the Bannon stuff, where they're talking about Bannon. That way I don't make you start all over. Okay, we talked about the Bannon-Andy Battleotto nexus. So we talked about Bannon, and then Battleotto is that guy, I guess, who was living in his crack den that his ex-wife lived in or whatever. So, all right, jumping in, this may be a little confusing. But, I mean, I'm making sense of this myself as I go. This is confusing to me. But this is something that had some legs online. I kept popping up on my timeline, and some people, I guess it wasn't viral. I guess it's not doing thousands or anything, but it's also something I've seen people throw around before, so I just figured we'd look into it. And as I'm looking into it, I'm sorry, this is weak as shit. But jumping back into this one article, which maybe we can make sense of this, it says, Acting U.S. Attorney Michael Sherwin speaks during a news conference Tuesday, Jan 12, 2021 in Washington. Federal prosecutors are looking at bringing significant cases involving public sedition, conspiracy charges in last week's riot at the U.S. Capitol. This is written right after January 6th. On Wednesday in Washington, Acting U.S. Attorney Michael Sherwin, in charge of the Capitol insurrection investigation, held his first press conference. He said, just yesterday, our office organized a strike force of very senior national security prosecutors and public corruption prosecutors. The addition of prosecutors experienced in public corruption was widely noted. They were going after the money. It is essential to determine how the money flowed in this coup attempt. Sherwin continued, logistics, legal work, comms, equipment, supplies to start. And we need to know how dark money groups provide support in which American corporations underwrote the effort. Sherwin's call for investigation touches subject areas I'm lucky enough to poke around in. It's all in my book, Gangster Planet, coming out later this spring. But there seems to be an urgent need to lay out some of it right away, even if it is still a little roughly formed. Description of things like the tourmaline sunsets over Casey Key will have to wait. Well, okay then. Try this. A transnational criminal network big enough to fit the parameters of what was called Russiagate until Donald Trump's smoothly effective big lie propaganda machine made the term seem unfashionable, still exists, and remains visitable. Too wordy? Yeah. In Sarasota, there is an international to mob partnership with which little resembles the Russiagate strawman Trump successfully branded a hoax. Repeating the same phrase over and over, tactics typically called brainwashing. Russiagate, as Trump defined it narrowly, was Russian state involvement. A little preachy. Was Russian state involvement visible in the mean little town of Sarasota? If treason were poetry, I'd say, let us go there and make our visit. But it's not. So as they say in television, let's take a look. Charlie Moore, the man and the myth. The name of the FBI agent working Battleotto and Bannon was said to be Charlie Moore. When he first appears in newspaper records back in 1965, he's already working as an informant. In the May 18th, 1965 Arizona Republic, FBI agent Charlie Moore told the House Subcommittee on Un-American Activities hardcore communists fomented the student rebellion at Berkeley. Moore said the riots at the University of California were classic techniques used by communists and radicals. This was not, in 1965, a stop the press's revelation. More than 40 years later, Sarasota fraudster Jonathan Kirshen takes a meeting in a hotel room in New York on September 4th, 2008, with an FBI undercover agent who is also identified at trial as Charlie Moore. In his hotel room meeting with Kirshen, Charlie Moore is wearing a wire. At the end of a recorded conversation in which Kirshen offers Moore, posing as a stock promoter, an unheard of kickback of 30% on a piece of stock fraud being put together, the FBI steps in and arrests him. Is this the same Charlie? Could this be important? News accounts seem a little vague. A few years ago, the FBI... man, how far as long does this go on? Man, this just keeps... This does just keep going, doesn't it? Man, this goes on and on and on. All right, well, I'm still not really getting what's going on here. All right. I mean, I keep hoping, I keep thinking something of interest will be. I mean, it's interesting, but it's like it's all over the place the way it's written here. It says news accounts remain a little vague. It says a few years ago, the FBI arrested Jonathan Kirshen in a broker bribery sting in which, according to prosecutors, he paid a kickback to an undercover FBI agent named Charlie Moore. Another said Charlie Moore was posing as a person with access to corrupt brokers. The agent agreed to have the brokers buy shares of Industrial Biotechnology Corp., Washington State pink sheets listing that Mr. Kirshen had been paid to promote. That was from the New York Times. And is readily identifiable because no other paper still puts Mr. in front of proper names. It says Mr. Kushner pled guilty to the charges in June 2009. It says, cut to interview with Joey Barquin, a disgruntled Sarasota investor. Joey Barquin is as close to a hipster as white bread Sarasota, Florida will probably ever see. Though he spent 30 years living on Florida's suncoast, his skin has a nighttime pallor. He wears a fedora with his brim pulled down over his eyes. It's a Rat Pack ready look. He looks like a racing tout. I can still hear his voice in my head as I listen to him speak over the phone. There's something you need to see, he told me to whisper, as if someone might be listening. It's Andy's house. You'll need to take a short drive to find out. That time I lived less than a mile from Battleotto's Casey Key home. That's by water. I didn't have a boat, so it was a little further by land. Go take a look at the beach house I showed you before, the house Andy bought with money siphoned out of me. Joey said, don't ask questions, just go there and you'll see. I said I would, and I hung up. But then I wavered, silently asking myself what could be new in a 4-year-old scandal, which by 2020 was reminiscent of a yellowed old postcard worn around the edges in short ancient history. My curiosity, however, overcame my lethargy, and I went out. Want to know more about the connection between Sarasota and transnational organized crime? Joey, now we are back to that. We're back to April 11th, 2003, when the SEC identifies Freedom Golf as an internet pump and dump scheme. Joey goes on, this is about Kirshen, this is Vancouver. A probe started up there in 2007 when Vancouver police launched a sting operation targeting a Vancouver promoter. Here's the big dog in Sarasota, this guy, and elsewhere, Adnan Khashoggi. It's the name of the big dog in the Vancouver stock market is left unsaid in this brief exchange. He is, or was, since he died in 2016, Adnan Khashoggi. His role will later loom large. 10 years ago, when Jonathan Kirshen's business partner, Andy Battalato, was finally arrested, I wonder if Battalato hadn't taken a look at one of the FBI agents busting him and seen Chris Hansen from Dateline. Hansen, of course, specialized in busting up secret dates set up by hapless shoves with underage girls, and underage girls played a relatively outsized role in Andy Battalato's sex life, which has been entertainingly documented by the Sarasota Sheriff's Department. Sheriff deputies were no strangers to the beach house where Steve Bannon famously took up residency and registered to vote before the 2016 presidential election. He aimed to quell a variety of disturbances, including a rumor that his ex-wife was running a crack den. But Bannon never lived in the house. When Sarasota sheriff deputies visited the house, it was always to see Andy Battalato. And here, as if on cue, would enter Chris Hansen. Hi, Andy. What's going on? Did you have a hard time finding the place? It's a little late to be prowling around here, don't you think? Why don't you have a seat? I've got a couple of questions for you. That's my Hansen. What do you think? The rosy state of affairs during which Sarasota remained fertile soil for stock fraud lasted until the middle of August of last year. Then everything changed, and Steve Bannon, former chief strategist to President Trump, and Andy Battalato were arrested, along with and 2 other men for money laundering and fraud associated with the We Build the Wall Foundation. In August, now, by the way, I gotta say, I'm actually interested. This stuff's super interesting. I'm kind of like learning a lot. I'm glad we dug back into this, but I'm still standing by. I don't know how the fuck this connects to Whitney Webb being a vet or not. But let's go on. August 20th, 2020. Bannon and Battalato woke to discover FBI agents on their way over to the house in Battalato's case and to the yacht in Bannon's case, owned by Bannon's partner, Chinese billionaire Go Wangwei, cruising off Connecticut. They were taken into custody and charged, along with 2 other men, with laundering money for the We Build the Wall Foundation. Their first reaction must have been bewilderment. What the fuck? We're protected. On its heels came a growing realization. Something changed. Here I am at this very moment, being arrested for fraud and money laundering. And I have only one question. Why start now? Till that moment 4 months ago, Andy Battalato had been busy with a decade-long series of criminal acts, sometimes referred to as white-collar crime. He has never before been called to account. At the press conference in Manhattan announcing the arrest, every federal agency got thanked, even if they'd only lent a couple of paper clips to the joint task force, brining the Build the Wall fraudsters to justice. The only agency that didn't get an attaboy, the Sarasota FBI. So, Battalato continued to helm the boiler room operation from the office of the owners of the Infinium building at 2033 Main Street in Sarasota, who include local civic officials as well as one worthy individual, an officer with a half-dozen pump and dump companies stripped of assets and bankrupt, who has been named Sarasota's Man of the Year twice because it's that kind of town. However, at the time of his arrest 4 months ago, Andy Battalato looked a much diminished and overweight and worried middle-aged man who slumped posture as he left a federal courtroom in Manhattan after bonding out, had little of the brash alt-right vigor on evidence when he briefly walked across the national stage 5 years ago. Today, in retrospect, it is clear Sarasota was a potent MAGA funding source, but I made the mistake of excusing much of it as typical low-level organized crime. It wasn't. Personally, I think most financial crime is boring. So are some of its practitioners who come across as accountants with green eye shades and an angle. But Sarah's alt-right MAGA crime ring was endowed with personality to spare. The reason is likely because they were involved in major drug trafficking. Drug trafficking, most of which still takes place by air, routinely involves mysterious, sometimes spectacular plane crashes. One happened just Saturday. So for a moment, let's look at some of the major drug moves with which the group was involved. we'll come back to the subject of unpunished financial crime in Sarasota. It isn't going anywhere. Last Saturday, Richard Bulk, a 9/11 flight school owner, Wally Hilliard's partner in a doomed airline startup in Florida called Flair for Florida Air, flew his Cessna Citation V5 twin-engine business jet into the ground from 11,000 feet with an unidentified passenger aboard in a rugged, unpopulated Indian reservation in Oregon. The crash was at least the third time airplanes have found it necessary to crash at high speed in the firm ground on our largely unforgiving planet. There's no way it's only been 3, but whatever. Richard Bulk was both a pilot and a fraudster. His unfortunate crash allows a look at one of the group's most storied financial heists. Aviation observer Dan Gride quickly posted a 3-part video asserting Bulk had committed suicide by airplane. Another aviation expert vehemently disagreed. Here's what I know. It's been 8 days since the crash. The 2 bodies discovered in the wreckage have not been publicly identified, which seems passing strange. Richard Bulk was a player. Bulk and Venice Terror flight school owner Wally Hilliard were partners in an airline startup called Florida Air. Florida Air pilots and planes and pilots come from Bulk's Harbor Air. While supplying both the planes and the pilots for the new Florida Air, Bulk's Harbor Air was going bankrupt. So were 2 other of Bulk's companies, Crossings Aviations and Crossings Developments, a Portland condo deal for which Bulk borrowed $17 million, mostly unpaid, through Capital Consultants, a pension fund management company that was in the midst of somehow losing $320 million. The biggest beneficiary of the money they were giving away in Portland may have been Wally Hilliard's Florida Air, which soon had wrangled its first celebrity endorsement when then Florida Secretary of State Catherine Harris publicly praised the airline. Praising what was already a losing proposition seemed out of character for Harris. Huffman Aviation Incorporated has had problems in the last few months with Florida Air, with the city of Venice, and with Sarasota County in the state of Florida, but the schools keep flying, the Venice gondolier reported. Turns out Huffman Aviation wasn't paying its rent on the airport. Huffman rent is late again, the paper headlined on May 12th. When Huffman Aviation paid 3 months of overdue rent last Friday, company president Rudy Decker said the rent wouldn't be late again. No, we won't have this anymore, he said during an interview last Friday. Headlines in the Venice gondolier about Florida Air grew less flattering as time went by. My personal favorite. City threatens lessee with eviction again. Huffman Aviation Incorporated is again on notice from the city to catch up on its rent payments or face eviction from the airport, the paper wrote on June 9th. Nothing had changed by midsummer 2001. Huffman lent rent late again, the paper reported mid-July. For the 6th straight month, Huffman Aviation Incorporated has failed to pay its rent to the city on time. A month before the September 11th tragedy, Huffman finally paid the rent, the biggest fraud by an investment manager in history. When the airline quickly began having difficulties, Bulk lost no time trying to pin the blame on Rudy Deckers. Bulk accused Deckers of not having enough experience to run a commuter airline and training facilities. He was an oxymoron the day I met him. Bulk told Portland reporter Eric Mason, I can't believe anyone handed him millions of dollars to run a business he had no experience in. No honor among thieves. Bulk was hot news because of his concurrent participation in what the Securities and Exchange Commission has called the biggest fraud by an investment manager in U.S. history. Bulk got $25 million to build a condominium project with court documents reveal costs only half that amount. Before I ever broke ground on the project, someone had pocketed $13 million. 2000-2001, Bulk owned Harbor Air, which serviced a U.S. Navy base in Whitby, Washington. Harbor Air was known locally as the Navy's airline because its function was to serve personnel flying in and out of the nearby Naval Air Station. Unfortunately, he was also involved at the same time in the massive looting of pension funds in Portland, Oregon. Hardest hit, $60 million, was the pension fund of the laborers union, called the biggest mob-run union in America. Bulk was so anxious to deflect attention anywhere else that he said the M word. I don't know what that one is. I've known Jeff Grayson for 12 years, Bulk said. I have never known him to have any shady or, some have asked me about mafia affiliate. Oh, so mafia is the end. I thought he called him a migger. Ex-money manager charged with fraud was an AP headline. Federal grand jury had indicted Jeffrey Grayson, whose firm had collapsed. Grayson's clients lost over $355 million in failed and fraudulent investments. It is unknown if anything in Rich Bulk's past had anything to do with the crash, but 2 earlier crashes of pilots with histories of drug trafficking bore eerie similarities, including that of a drug trafficker whose fields rivaled Barry Seal's, who also owned an airline called Florida Air. For Bulk, the sun-drenched parties aboard his personal Grumman Albatross with friends in the San Juan Islands were over. His huge flying boat, an ambitious seaplane used by the U.S. Navy and Coast Guard as a search and rescue aircraft, sits for sale at the Tacoma Narrows Airport in Gig Harbor, along with other assets from his troubled aviation company. Observers noted, however, that he was not running noticeably short of cash. Bulk would do anything for money. He was so desperate, an aviation executive who had witnessed Bulk's descent told me in 2003. I'm surprised he hasn't skipped the country by now with all the trouble he's gotten himself into farting around with those mafia boys down in Portland. Florida Air's only accomplishment, other than the big public endorsement from Catherine Harris, may have been to provide a rationale from the presence of a half-dozen out-of-date British aerospace jet streams poised on the tarmac of Florida airports with an easy reach of Caribbean hotspots. But they were a presence at the Venice airport when I arrived in early 2002. The massive mob-led $352 million looting of pension funds in Portland, Oregon was a non-story almost everywhere. Hardly anyone knew about it, even at the time. The money was stolen in a highly organized, systematic, no-nonsense fashion, according to the Portland Oregonian, from the pensions of mostly mob-led unions. The hardest hit were the pension funds of secretaries and laborers of the Laborers Union, often called the biggest mob-run union in America. Analysts said to get to the same retirement benefits they had before their pension fund was looted, unfortunate workers would have to spend an extra decade working. Who had the temerity to steal from the mob? Mobsters. One big recipient of the pension largesse was Elvin Malnick, whom Reader's Digest once called Meyer Lansky's heir as head of organized crime. Less well known is the fact that Malnick, who admits only to being a Jewish lawyer from Miami, has extremely close ties, family's ties actually, to a leading prince of the Saudi royal family. Bulk's end of the organized bust-out was more than $12 million. He used some of it to purchase a half-dozen British-made Jetstream regional jets for the soon-to-be bankrupt new airline, Florida Air. Portland ABC News reporter Eric Mason interviewed Bulk about his participation in the Ponzi scheme. The financing between Mr. Bulk and Florida Air, which was a sister operation of the flight training center which trained Mohammed Atta, was murky, Mason reported. Applied to the business affairs of people doing business with people who were doing business with Mohammed Atta, murky is not a word you want to see describing the case. Murky was also the grammar here. Murky was also the word used by federal bankruptcy judge Paul Glenn to describe Skyway Aircraft, about which more later located just north of Sarasota County in St. Petersburg while presiding over Skyway's bankruptcy. Skyway Aircraft, an engine of both the financial fraud and drug trafficking, is covered in a separate chapter. Meet Jackson Stevens, American super spy. Before going bankrupt, Bulk made his millions operating elder care facilities, first in Washington State and then nationally. Then Bulk built 100 yards from Huffman Aviation at the Venice Airport, a gleaming facility for his elder care company, Altera. In the other direction was the national headquarters of Arkansas wheeler dealer Jackson Stevens' nationwide elder care behemoth Beverly Enterprises. Just down the block from Bulk's assisted living home in Venice, Florida, and a stone's throw from the Venice Airport, stands a stately complex that had been built to house the national headquarters of nursing home giant Beverly Enterprises, owned by Arkansas's Jackson Stevens. Gleaming like a movie set basking under Florida's sunshine, the building still houses Stevens' former law firm, Boone, Boone & Boone, which, according to local observers, still runs the town of Venice. A quick Google search shows Jackson Stevens' name has been linked with scandals from Mena, Arkansas, and Contra cocaine to the Promise software scandal, most often paired with America's super-secret National Security Agency, which is said to be informally run. Rudy Deckers claimed he and Hilliard met Bulk through a mutual friend in Ohio. I later learned he'd been lying, but what had he been lying to protect? Was there a connection between the assisted living industry and covert operations? Man. I don't think this is at all ever going to tie in the Whitney Webb thing, but whatever. We're almost there, guys. Battleotto was described as a conservative scribbler and Breitbart underling, and is a Sarasota, Florida businessman based on scant evidence by the New York Times. It was sort of like identifying Al Capone as a guy who ran a bar in Cicero, Illinois. It may be as true as far as it goes, but it falls well short of being a complete description. Today, Battleotto is the center of a criminal case involving judicial celebrity Steve Bannon. Federal prosecutors accused Battleotto of conspiring with Bannon and 2 others to siphon hundreds of thousands of dollars for the campaign to raise private funds for Trump's border wall. Battleotto pled not guilty before a federal judge in New York and was released on bail. Disabled military veteran Brian Colfage, who founded the campaign, and Colorado businessman Timothy Shea were also released and charged and released. All denied wrongdoing, but none as flamboyantly as Bannon, who looked sunburned, disheveled, and unrepentant in front of reporters after being released by a federal court in Manhattan. Ironically or not, the crime Bannon and Battleotto are charged with, money laundering, is the same offense Bannon warned Michael Wolff in his book Fire and Fury could ensnare Trump during Mueller's investigation, which that's a good point. Financial fraud the 2 partners engaged in was on a scale large enough to have easily provided several $100 million as seed money to launch what would later become known as Russiagate. By tender age, Andrew Battleotto, whose relationship with former presidential advisor Bannon goes back decades, has started and led numerous public companies. All of them floundered like unwanted babies exposed to die in a cliff in Sparta. Very few got a Christian burial, because many of the companies went on to rise from the dead, resurrected like zombies with names like Renewable Company. They were given a new name, a new corporate mission, and no one was wiser when they were publicly listed again. We'll take brief looks at some of the more interesting. They included About Main Street Incorporated, Donna Messenger Corps, EC3, Halicon Partners, Krabby Bills, Red Sea Management, Triton Network Systems, Terranex, Military Command Technologies, Big Game Holding, Home Pals, Cambridge Analytica, that one's familiar, Sargon, Sinofresh, etc., etc., etc. It goes on and on and on. If Henry Ford bought technology to bear on the problem of mass-producing cars, guys like Battleotto and Bannon produced a similar feat in modern finance capitalism. They brought modern management concepts to bear on a perceived problem in serial financial fraud. For people who felt that financial fraud was lucrative, sure, but it took too long and the scores were too far apart. Andy's answer was speed. He had companies circling overhead, ready to land whenever a previous flight crashed and burned, which they already did. We'll take a look at a few briefly before passing on. As earlier stated, financial fraud is usually boring. Andy Battleotto's Renewable Corporation was a Washington company with a Utah transfer agent. With Battleotto presiding at all sides, the Renewable Corps had formerly been known as Industrial Biotechnology Corporation. Industrial Biotechnology Corporation turned had formerly been known as Newtrack Mining, which had formerly been known as Track 2 Industries, which had itself formerly been known as Bear Track Industries. Noticing a trend here. Clearly nothing good would come of it, but it kept getting recycled, lifted with a fresh name and a new symbol for the OTC. Other pump and dump schemes the network was involved with are presented to show how industrious Andy Battleotto et al. were about serial stock fraud. Jonathan Kirshner is currently away for a while. He's doing 20 years in federal prison. He was one of the principal Donald Trump-connected actors in the Sarasota crime ring. In some ways, Kirshner is a personification of the foot soldier in today's transnational organized crime. He's multinational. He has dual U.S.-UK citizenship. His primary allegiance may be to a third country, Israel, with whose interests he has apparently closely aligned in a fourth country, Costa Rica, the country where Kirshner spent most of his time. Also, he's a specialty, international money laundering. The name of one of his most famous clients just came to light. By that I mean with no false modesty that I discovered it in a little-noticed ruling of the Supreme Court of the Seychelles Islands, which one can imagine is quite a tribunal. Kirshner's newly revealed client is one of the principal warlords of out time, Eric Prince, for whom Kirshner laundered money in the Seychelles Islands in the Indian Ocean, but as far from southwest Florida as it is possible to get where they still use machine guns. Back in white bread with Sarasota and cracker country, Jonathan Kirshner was in business with a top figure in Russian organized crime. Mr. Big C, his own self, Semyon Mogilevich. I don't know why I struggle with that name. His story is in a subsequent chapter. Says the official story leaves something desired. Here's the official story. After his dealings with a loan shark turned ugly in 2008, Andrew Battleotto sought the help of the FBI, agreeing to record calls as the government built a case against a man it said was involved in organized crime. Around this time, Battleotto assisted the FBI with a second case, providing information that helped prosecutors send one of his associates to prison for security frauds. It may even be partially true, but Battleotto, according to eyewitnesses, had been taping his phone calls for years, including with Bannon to forestall just this kind of eventuality. Before Bannon shared a home address with Andy, the pair partnered in a series of business adventures that included homeopathic nasal sprays, cosmetics, and fragrances. Reported Politico, which could have done better. The ventures came during an overlooked chapter of Bannon's career in the years leading up to the most recent financial crisis, when Trump's incoming chief White House strategist dove into the world of penny stocks. Long before the wall-building project came along, Bannon and Battellotto worked together in a steady diet of penny stock fraud supplemented by political documentaries. These, some say, have given Battellotto some keen insights into Steve Bannon affairs. But Battellotto's history of assisting the FBI raised the prospect that he could turn on his partner Steve Bannon after years of collaboration, according to interviews with former prosecutors. Two of them knowing each other well is an important piece of for a cooperator, said Harry Sandick, a former federal prosecutor in New York. You want someone who can say, I've known this person for years and this is what we did together. Battellotto's lawyer declined to comment on this case or his defense or whether his client flipped, and if he had, whether he had flipped before Steve Bannon and thus gotten a better deal from the feds. Question hung in the air. Who's going to flip first? All right, that's the end of that. I know that was a lot, and I'm still at the end, and I still don't know how the fuck this has anything to do with whether or not Whitney Webb is a Fed. I guess, especially because she linked to that article like 4 or 5 times in that thread, which is wild. So this was supposedly, this is a very interesting article. There's a lot going on here. Pretty wild. Little interesting dive into Bannon's world that I am very suspicious of for sure. But I saw nothing in there that in any way substantially ties Whitney Webb to any of this. So, hey, tell me in the chat if you. We're going to go through the live chat one more time, and we're going to get out of here. We're going to cut off the second segment of the day. We'll save that for tomorrow. I know we're doing a little bit off. We got changed a little bit up, than what we planned it to be today, going way deep into this. But I was just astounded there was nothing here. I've seen nothing. I've seen nothing that in any way convinced me that Whitney Webb had anything to do with anything glowy in this. So, fun stuff. Let's roll the chat. I mean, I'm really befuddled here. But whatever, I guess we got some interesting, it's an interesting little dive today. A little fun little morning dump. Let's roll the chat. Morning. Good morning to you, Karma O'Neill. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Nick Rivera. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. Nick Rivera saying, why is it so easy to believe spooks are generational when it comes to Robert Maxwell and his Ghislaine, but when it comes to Whitney Webb, Max Blumenthal, Tucker, and their spook parents, cognitive, yeah, fair enough, yeah. I know Blumenthal, I was supposed to talk a little bit about Blumenthal, and that was going to tie into the, who's the fucking, the weird science guy, Ashton Forbes, because they were arguing on there. And I do think Blumenthal's spooky heritage comes up. So you are correct. I'm definitely completely open to the idea of Webb. And I guess the only thing we really found out today that I think we found out was that her dad's a lawyer, which, a little spooky-ish, I guess. I don't know. Good morning, Fire Pixie. I mean, although there's plenty of lawyers, you don't have to be spooked to be a lawyer. Good morning, Mojo. Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, see, Tom says... Yeah, it said, how was any of that even related to Whitney? Exactly, right? So, hey, we dug into it. Somebody was making claims, and I don't think any of it bore out. As Tom says, I had no real opinion of her before this, and I still have no real opinion of her. Yeah, sorry. I mean, hey, guys, we looked into whether Whitney Webb glows, and maybe nothing about this in any way made her more or less glowy, in my opinion, so... Tom says the generational feds things makes more sense with Maxwell because she was doing intelligence type shit too. Yeah, see, Marmax, I'm also befuddled. I kept waiting for the spooky Whitney stuff, but there wasn't anything concrete. Yeah, I mean, in that whole article we read, it was like the whole point that she's sharing is to be like, there's an FBI office in Sarasota, which I don't even remember her ever showing like an address for the FBI office or seeing that anywhere. I know she showed a picture of the dad and his and having an office. And so it sounds like she was making some point like that. The same. I don't know. It's confusing. Whatever. I don't know. If anyone does have interesting stuff that actually makes it seem like she glows, let me know. So yeah. With that, guys, let's. I guess we'll get out of here. Sorry, a little bit of weird, went a little bit astray of what it was supposed to be, but whatever. We'll come back to it tomorrow. Join me tomorrow around 11 a.m. Eastern. You know, I'll probably be late like I always am, probably around noon or so, but I'll try to get here around 11. We'll see if we make good time. But with that, guys, we're going to get out of here. Leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well. That's at Tower Gang Jose, and it's the No Way Jose podcast everywhere else you're looking for. So just search for No Way Jose with a comma and an exclamation mark if you want to find that sucker. But now if you want to support me the best way you can do that with money over at patreon.com. There's No Way Jose 2020. You got a QR code up here. See that, baby? You can use that if you prefer to, as opposed to using the URL. But that URL is patreon.com. So it's No Way Jose 2020. And the low level of $2, you get access to early episodes. I try to do about 1 to 2 of those per week. I got the dude coming on for another Years of Lead episode, so that'll be fun tonight. For the patrons, get that early. You also get access to ad-free RSS feed. You get access to Telegram. You get access to pre-show, post-show, and view calls. And me and Austin's weekly live call-in show, Already Dead. Also get a big shout out to the highest level of my Patreon. Those are my sponsors. It's a big thank you for their support. My previous co-host on Tower Gang, at Learn Show, also at Brigade D's, at ZLVRCK, at _ Zeal, Tim Tell, at John Klebo, big fan of the show, Torn May, at Wayne Taggart, One Cover Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack, Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Winograd, Biblical Anarchy Podcast. For that, guys, I have an outro for you guys. I hope you like. Yeah, someone says just start saying noon. No, because then that would not be the morning dump. So I'm just gonna act like we're in a different time zone whenever I'm not actually in the morning. So the noon dump doesn't make sense. That doesn't flow. But anyways, guys, I have an outro that I think you'll like. Hope you dig it. A fun little musical number on our friend of the show, Dan Bond. Oh my God, you gotta be fucking kidding me! I literally just brought it up and the audio immediately shit out. So give me a second. I gotta do this all over again. All right, here we go. It's back. All right. Enjoy this outro. We'll see you guys tomorrow around 11 a.m. Eastern, give or take. We'll see.
Who's the man that quit his podcast to serve his country? Dan Bongino. Who's the man that quit that job in 292 days? Dan Bongino. Who's the man that went on Fox News and complained he missed his wife because he had to go into an office? Dan Bongino.
I stare at these 4 walls all day and I gave up.
Who took one look into the Epstein files and said, nothing to see here, folks? Dan Bongino. Who was forced into retirement after 2 civilian deaths in Minneapolis? Greg Bovino. I used to want to be at the RNC. I used to want to be like Dan Bongino. But these days I only want to be like the great one. Danny DeVito. Darkness for light, Danny DeVito. Come wrap us in your arms, spread out your wings and take flight. I wanna be like Danny DeVito. I wanna meet the cast of Taxi. I wanna scream for Jumanji 3. I wanna be like Danny DeVito. I wanna be like Danny D. I wanna be like Danny DeVito. I wanna be like Danny D. I wanna be like Danny DeVito.